Perhaps you should embroider a red A on your wardrobe, you abominable tramp.
Perhaps you should get a wardrobe, you abominable twat.
High school. It feels like forever while it's happening. In retrospect, it seems to have gone by in a flash, and no matter how old you get, you will never stop thinking of every stupid thing you ever said or did during. It's no surprise, really, that high school movies are so popular considering the massive audience of people who are either going through it or reminiscing about it. And with that in mind, I want to take a closer look at two stories set during these impressionable years that offer similar but decidedly different takes on the whole high school experience. First up is the much beloved Easy A, which may actually be hiding a somewhat disturbing message beneath its cheerful veneer. Let's see. The story centers around Olive, a very bright and kind-hearted 17-year-old who feels largely ignored by her peers. In order to get out of a weekend camping trip with her best friend Rhiannon, Olive pretends to have a date with a guy in college. Then on Monday, when Rhiannon asks about the date, Olive is suspiciously coy, which leads Rhiannon to jump to the erroneous conclusion that Olive lost her virginity.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
Despite trying to deny this several times, Rhiannon won't take no for an answer, so Olive decides to just go with it, and since Rhiannon can't keep her mouth shut, before long, the entire school is gossiping about Olive getting lucky. When she admits to her friend Brandon that the rumors aren't really true, Brandon, who is gay and sick of being picked on for it, surprises Olive by asking her if she'll tell everyone that she also had sex with him so these homophobic assholes will leave him alone. Olive reluctantly agrees, and it leads to one of the funniest scenes ever.
Do you smell that?
Did he just say it smelled?
With Brandon now viewed as a stud, he refers another picked-on kid to Olive who wants to boost his rep by pretending to get laid, and once again, big-hearted Olive can't say no, but this time she demands compensation in the form of a gift card, a snap decision that inadvertently leads to a booming side hustle with her as a fake prostitute, which you gotta admit is an awesome idea for a story.
A coupon?
Having gone from invisible dork to perceived high school tramp in record time, Olive unsurprisingly gets a lot of sideways glances, but similar to when Rhiannon came to the wrong conclusion about her, Olive likes being viewed as edgy and cool, so she leans into her new persona by dressing provocatively and pinning a big A to her clothes, much like the heroine of The Scarlet Letter, who was unfairly branded an adulterer. Despite Olive enjoying her newfound popularity for a while, the negatives eventually start to take an emotional toll. There's rumors going around that she has STDs, her friendship with Rhiannon deteriorates, one guy tries to treat her like an actual prostitute, and even with all the attention she gets, she still feels completely alone. When Olive decides she's had enough and wants things to go back to how they were before, her clients, of course, don't want to admit the truth because they're cool now.
Do you know how many girls I've hooked up with because of that?
So she makes a video confessing to everything and posts it online, and then once everyone knows the truth, she and the guy who said a crush on her this entire time and who never believed all the salacious rumors about her become a couple. As far as stories go, Easy A has a lot going for it. It's very clever, it's very funny, the dialogue is outstanding.
I hope for your sake that God has a sense of humor.
Oh, I have 17 years worth of anecdotal proof he does.
And it has a great protagonist who finds herself in the middle of an interesting moral quandary. And yet, there's something about this movie that has always bugged me. The stories seem to be both missing something important while also implying something kinda disturbing. For a while though, I couldn't figure out what that was until I saw a similar film that came out around the same time, but received much less attention. That movie is the clunkily titled Turn Me On, God Damn It, or just Turn Me On, Damn It, which got some positive press when it was released, especially in its native Norway, but nowadays is so underappreciated that you can't even find it on any major streaming platform, which is too bad because it's a good movie. Much like its American counterpart, the story centers around a girl in high school whose life is significantly altered when she's perceived by her peers in a way that isn't really true. This time that girl is 15-year-old Alma, who's got a crush on a boy named Arthur, who clearly has feelings for her as well.
Hi, Alma.
Arthur?
At a party, they make dreamy eyes at each other from across the room. Then when they find themselves alone outside, it seems like they're gonna kiss or hold hands or do something romantic, but instead, Arthur pulls off a boss move like no other. We've all got our gag reel when it comes to adolescent foreplay, but Arthur takes it to another level when he pulls out his dick and pokes Alma in the thigh with it, and then, perhaps realizing that maybe that wasn't the suavest thing to do, he zips up and walks away like nothing happened. Alma, slightly confused by this gesture but definitely not turned off, goes in the bathroom and masturbates. Then afterwards, she tells her best friend Sarah what happened. Sarah's older sister Ingrid, who also has a crush on Arthur, immediately doubts Alma's story. Then when she sees Arthur, she asks him point blank if it's true, and he denies it. Ingrid, who is more popular than Alma, then tells anyone who will listen that Alma lied about being dick poked. By Monday, everyone at school is talking about this bizarre encounter. They all think Alma made up. By Wednesday, the now dubbed Dick Alma finds herself exiled to the Dungeon of Uncool, where no one wants to hang out with her, including Sarah, who feels pressured to side with her sister. As if dealing with the fallout of her undeserved reputation wasn't enough, Alma also has to deal with the unrelenting hormones that come with being a teenager. When her mother learns that Alma has been calling phone sex lines and stealing porno mags, she angrily confronts her daughter, which compels Alma, who was already under a lot of stress, to run away to Oslo. Fortunately, all she does there is hang out with Sarah and Ingrid's other sister, Maria. After Alma's much relieved mother picks her up, she and Sarah go back to being friends, and then Arthur finally decides to man up and admit to everyone that he did in fact poke Alma with his dick, and then they start dating. Now, before trying to determine which of these films is better, I should probably first note that they are telling different stories, so they're not in direct competition, and many of the differences between them don't necessarily mean anything. For instance, I don't think it really matters that Alma is pretty much blameless for what happens to her, while Olive plays a much more active role in how she's perceived, or misperceived. That to me is just a narrative decision, and both work fine. However, there are 3 differences here that I think really do matter, 2 of which go back to what's always bothered me about Easy A. I have no problem with Olive struggling to tell the truth, or with her desire to be thought of as someone she really isn't, which both feel like a normal part of adolescence, but I find it harder to accept that a 17-year-old who clearly understands the power of sex appeal never shows any interest in sex itself. For her, it's always just a status thing, and while it certainly can be that, especially in high school, even if having sex didn't earn you any status points at all, people would still have it, or have the desire to have it, most notably teenagers. And that's the difference. Unlike Olive, who only seems to care about the status part of sex, Alma is obsessed with the sex part of sex. She's constantly masturbating, she fantasizes about doing it with everyone, including people she doesn't even like, to the point that she starts to think there's something wrong with her.
Hello?
And that leads to the other thing that's always bothered me about Easy A. Despite the painful reminders both films provide of how cruel adolescents can be to each other, Turn Me On, Damn It actually has a really positive message at its heart. It's telling young people, you're okay. There's nothing wrong with you. It's normal to feel the way you do. Easy A, on the other hand, well, it depends. Like, if you look for the positive in this movie, you will absolutely find it. Olive is smart, she's kind, she has amazing parents, she accepts people for who they are, she mostly tries to do the right thing, and the fact that she sometimes falls short is itself a positive. Through her struggles, we're reminded that it's okay to make mistakes and that you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. However, there's a much more cynical message that you could also take from this film, particularly if you're a young woman. Namely, that if you are promiscuous, you will not be accepted by society. For the record, I don't think the filmmakers intended to send that message. I'm sure they wanted this to be a progressive and empowering story, and in many ways it is, but it's also a story about a young woman who's looked down on for having sex with lots of guys, all while we, the audience, know she doesn't deserve to be looked at that way because she's completely abstinent, to the point she never shows any sexual desire at all. The problem with that premise is that it carries with it the implication that if Olive really did have sex with those boys, or if she simply wanted to, then she would deserve the negative attention she got, and the total hunk who's had a crush on her for the entire movie and who's never doubted for a second that Olive has always been the paragon of purity.
Don't act like you don't know what people are saying about me.
No, I know what people are saying. Doesn't mean I believe them.
Wouldn't want to be with her. Doesn't that play right into the double standard of how having lots of sexual partners either makes you a player or a slut depending on your gender? I think you can at least make the argument that it does. It's actually kind of ironic that the movie is constantly making fun of this group of ultra-conservative Christian teens while sending a message I bet that same group would wholeheartedly endorse. Alright, so now that I've divulged my theory of the message Easy A is really sending, I'll again ask which of these films do you think is better? And again, I think the answer to that is obvious. As in, it is obviously Easy A. And it's not even close. Whatever this movie may or may not be implying, it's still a brilliantly executed story. The first 2/3 of this thing are borderline perfect, and the final act isn't bad. I just tend to get a little bored when movies have a lot of loose ends to tie up, and you can kind of tell where it's all going. Honestly, the only thing I'd change about Easy A, aside from maybe dropping the big song and dance number at the end, which felt a little forced, would be to make Olive a bit more like Alma, i.e. someone who's actually interested in sex beyond just its reputation-boosting qualities. That one change would make Olive feel a bit more real as a character, while also taking care of the somewhat puritanical message I think the movie inadvertently sends. On the flip side, Turn Me On, Dammit sends a very positive message, but it actually has a significant narrative issue you may have spotted. After the excellent dick-poking sequence and its immediate aftermath concludes, the story kinda stalls out because Alma doesn't have enough to do. Aside from her raging libido moments, which are all great, she spends the remainder of the film mostly waiting. That might be realistic, but what makes characters compelling is their actions, their choices, even their mistakes. Alma and Olive are both very likable, but Olive is more compelling because her actions have a greater impact on the story. So, to answer my own question, does Easy A send a slightly disturbing message? Yeah, I think it kinda does, but I also think it's an excellent film, so the two are not mutually exclusive for me. And while Turn Me On, Dammit sends a wonderful message, as a story, the second half could have been improved a little, but overall, it's still good, and you should definitely check it out and let me know what you think.
Anna, är det du som har ringt till servicenummer?
Det heter sextelefon.
Sextelefon?